Hello and welcome back to the course. In this section of the course, we are going to be talking about control flows. So what are control flows? These are part of our Python code that help us to perform operations depending on if the condition is true or false, right? So before we get into the control flows we want to get into some of our Python comparison operators. So we have approximately 6 Python comparison operator, and these are some of them. We have our equal to operator, which is double equals to sign, our not equal to operator, which is your exclamation mark plus your equals to, then your greater than operator, your lesser than operator, your greater than is equals to operator, and your lesser than equals to operator. Let's jump into our code and see some of our operators. So first, we check if 1 is equals to 1 and it returns true. So the next we check if 1 is not equal to 1. And it should return false because 1 is equal to 1. So the next we check, let's minimize this so we can see all our operators. Okay, let's move it over here. So the next we check is if 1 is greater than 2, we should return false. Then the next we check is if 1 is less than 2, returns true. So the next thing we're going to check is if 1 is greater than or is equals to 2, we get false. 1 is not greater than or equal to 2. 1 is less than 2. So we can check 3 is greater than or equals to 2. We get a true t value. And remember, you cannot have space between your greater than equal to, right? It has to be in the same place. So we get a true value. Same with our false, less than or equal to. Let's pop this in, and this is your less than sign. You get a false value, right? So we know all our comparison operator. Now we are going to jump into our control flows. So the control flow statements we have in Python is the if statement, the else statement, and the else if statement. So we'll jump back into our code and see it in real time. So first and foremost, we are going to create a variable called age, right? Then if the age is greater than, let's say 12, then you want the Python code to tell us a joke, right? So to do this, we use what is called the if statement to check a condition before running our code. So we say if age is greater than 12, then we use this column to create a new block. We use the passing column and create a new block. And this is a new block. A new block is when the code here, when there's a space between the code here and the new line. So this is our new block. So we'll fill in a job. We say print why does the chicken cross the road? Because they want to eat him. It's a little bit of a boring joke, but it doesn't matter right now. Does the chicken cross the road because they want to eat him, right? So this is where our line of code ends, right? So if we were to run this, let's run this, we get nothing, right? We're not going to get anything because the age is greater than, is less than 12, so we're not going to get anything, right? So for us to make this work, what we need to do is we can change the value of our age, change this to 13, then pass in our code back into here. Once we print this, it gives us the joke, why does the chicken cross the road? Because the age is now greater than 12. So going back here, we need to understand something, that when we are using an if statement, the code that is going to be run if the if condition is true, so we have a statement, we have your condition, the code that's going to be run is this code that is inside the block. So this is a block of code. This is the main block. This is the block 1. Let's say you have your Python terminal. This is your line of code. I'm just going to call it LOC from now on, LOC. So you have your if statement at the beginning block, if, then your condition, then you need to give indentation. So if you are going to give one space using your space bar, you use one space for everything. So one, it will work fine. But most times we use the tab, which gives 4 lines of 4 space, then your new line of code, right? So this means that everything inside of this condition, this if statement is part of this block. So we are not going to include this. This code is going to run if this is true. So this code is blocked inside of this if statement. So naturally, if you are following the normal order of code, we'll run this, then we'll go into the block, run what's inside the block if the condition is true, before we go back to our main line, our main lines, and run this. So this is your block 1 from here to the end. This is your block 2, and you can also nest block inside of blocks inside of themselves, right? So back to our code. So now we are going to open a file, a folder, a file. Then we are going to write the same condition. Let's age is equals to 10. Then if age is greater than 12, print any joke. I'm not going to write, I'm just going to say this is a joke. So another statement you want to notice in Python is your else statement. And what this statement simply does for us, it prints a value if our initial condition is not true. So if this age is not greater than 12, we want to print out something. Let's say you're too young. You are too young. You're too young. So our age is now 10, right? And it is not greater than 12. So what do you think is going to come out? So let's save our code, then run it. Let's go back to here. Save our code right over here. Go to the statement, save in conditional, save this up. Yes, want to replace this, then run our code. You see that you are too young was printed because our age is less than 12. So now we want to check conditions. We don't just want to check the age. We want to check if the age is 12, we want to print something. If it's 13, we want to print, and we want to check various other conditions before we get to the else statement, which actually prints if none of the conditions are true. We want to check multiple conditions. That's where our else if statement comes into play. So now we are going to change this to equal to. So we want to check if the age is equal to 12, print you are 12, you are 12 years old. Then we want it to print the same for the other age group, which is 13, 14, 15. So to do that, what we're simply going to do is now use the else if statement. Grab your code right over here, then change this to what you want to check for, the condition you want to check for. Then change this as well. 13. So it checks if this is false, it will now go to the next one. If this is false, it goes to the next. If the other one is false, it goes to the until if everything is false, if all the conditions it checks is false, before it will print the else statement. Other than that, it will print out any one of the condition that is true. So we are going to change this to else if, change this to 14. We are just to check for 2. Okay. So now we are going to change this to, let's run this. Okay, we need to add our colon right over here. Always add your colon. Save, run, you are 13. Since the age is 13, it means that you are 13. So if none of this is true, so let's change this to, for example, 16. It will print out you are too young. Okay, you are too young. But none of our condition is true. So it checks this. The first if statement is not true. It checks the second else if it's not true. Check the third, then it prints out the else statement. So you see this is very critical when we are writing more complex code, because we are constantly asking our computer to do something if the condition is true. Especially in game development, you'll be using a lot of else if statements, a lot of conditional statements. So we need to familiarize ourselves with this, right? But something you should also notice is in a situation where you need to check something like this. Let's say if age is equal to 12, I want to print something. Let me just grab this. Still want to print something if the age is equal to 12 and age is equal to 14. You want to print the same type of message. Let's say you are old enough. Old enough, right? Instead of doing this multiple times, we can combine this statement into one. Then else, we just print our else here. Print something like, let's say on. Print on. Okay. So instead of going like this and doing this multiple times, we can combine two conditions together. And this is how we are going to do this. You can simply say, grab this first one. We don't want to type this again. It's the same, then say, and age is equal to 13. So like this, we've combined these two conditions together and it gives us the same thing, right? So another thing you can do is you can use the or. So what it does is check if this is true and this is true, right? Oh, okay, well, let's use or here. So if this is true or this is true, print out you are old enough, right? So let's pop this back into here. Okay. So change this to, let's do 13. Should give us old enough twice. Okay, let's close this up and close this up, save, run. Okay, you're old enough, you're old enough. So we have successfully combined our condition. So if any of the condition is true, so if this returns true or this returns true, to give us our value. So in a condition where you want to check if two conditions are true before you print, for example, you are creating a game, you want to check if the user has gotten a higher score and the user's health is greater than 0, you can use the AND operator to combine those two conditions. And you can combine more than one condition together. You can combine this like this, or age is equals to 14, down as many conditions as you want to combine. Combine this, so 14, 15, to as long as you want to. So if I change this to 15, save this, run this, you see, you are old enough, but in the first condition, it proved on. So imagine you having to write if else multiple times. You know, it will be a little bit strenuous for you. So this is where this comes in, and you can combine multiple conditions together. Something else you need to take note of is this. So if you have a condition, let's say the age value now is equal to 10, right? And you did a user input using your input method on your terminal like this. So it takes in the value of the age. You say the input is equals to in. Say age, if age is equals to in, print something else. You will notice that you get an error, that you cannot compare a integer with a string, right? So what you get is simply this. Age 10 is not equals to the string 10. So when you compare these two values, you get a false. So you should be cognizant of that when you're doing your comparison. So you have to make this work, you either have to convert this to a string type, or you convert this to an integer type. Let me just show you an example of what I mean. Just a short example of what I mean. So to do this, say you have age. So you already have your age. Let's say user age. User age now is equal to the number 10. And you want to print something. If both are true, say age is equal to user age, right? Print Great. Or say greetings, sir. Greetings, boy. So if we were to do this, we would automatically get nothing. We're not going to get anything because age is not equal to the number. Okay, let me change this back to 10. So, okay, let's save this and let me just create an else statement. Something went wrong. Something. Not right. So save this, run this. You see, we get something not right because the value age, which is 10, is an integer value, the integer type, and this one is a string type. So to convert this, either you do this, which is you use this method, this function in Python to convert this to an integer, change this to int, or you convert this to a string. So when we run this, we see we get, let me save this and run it. Greeting, boy. Then you could also go the other way around. You can convert this to a string, value, then remove this, save, run, greetings, boy. So there's two ways you can go about this. This is one of the methods. So I would advise you to go and read some of the Python defined methods and keywords you could use with Python that comes automatically, like the print method, the print function, the string function, the integer function. These are some of the functions you will see that comes along with Python. You have a list and a bunch more other functions you could read and some keywords you could also use. So this is it for this class. And if you have any question, you can leave it in the comment section or the question answer section, and I will get to you as soon as possible. So the next class, we are going to be talking on loops and how to use loops.